Happy Saturday, folks. We're back here at the homestead and it's a beautiful Saturday. They've been calling for the weather to be all over the place today, and we got lucky up here at the mountaintop. You can see it's beautiful, sunny, partially cloudy if I could speak. Anyways, I want to go over everything I got going on for the day. We're topping off the garden boxes with soil. We're going to be ordering chip drop, and to see how much mulch I can get for my paths and around my fruit trees. I'm probably still going to try to get my hands on a chipper to make my own mulch for on top of my garden beds. I would like to get by tomorrow all my fruit trees in, my fruit bushes in, and probably also my brassicas into the garden itself. The rest of the garden could wait a little bit. Tomatoes need to harden off outside a little bit. My brassicas are hardened off just fine. But let's show you what all I got going on. So right here I have 2 peach trees, 1 pear tree. You can see the peach trees are really just starting to bud and leaf out. There's a lot of dead smaller branches and tips here. I'm going to probably be pruning these all back. You might wonder why that happens. Well, transplant stress and shock. These trees have had to stay in their planters due to weather and timing for far too long. This is not uncommon. These trees are still just sitting down at Lowe's with people not buying them yet. The thing is they're not getting as good a care as these are here. So these trees actually look a lot better than they could. Once they get into the ground and start getting watered and fertilized, they're going to have a huge uptick in fresh growth, but all this dead bullshit needs to be pruned off. Otherwise, they're just going to get sicker and sicker. Over here on my porch, you have my columnar apple trees, 3 different varieties, plus I have another variety of pear. So a lot of these trees, you only need 1 variety because they're self-pollinating, but here's the trick, people. If you have 2 different varieties of apple tree or pear tree or peach tree, cross-pollination gives you bigger and more successful pollination. So the fruits you get will be bigger, they will be sweeter, there will be more of them because more of the pollination will be successful. Now, these aren't going to produce fruit this year. All these trees over here, they all blossom. These are all dead blossoms, and we frosted kind of late compared to when these trees blossomed this year, so they didn't do so good. They're not going to produce fruit because of that. That's okay. This year I really want the focus on root production. These trees are all big enough to produce fruit next year. I'm not worried about it. But like I said, 2 pears, 2 peaches, 3 apples. There's a crab apple out there that will actually help with cross-pollination. Later this summer, I'm going to be ordering 2 more dwarf apple trees that are going to go out there. The reason why I'm going with dwarfs isn't because of the size of the tree. They are a smaller tree and more manageable, but they hit maturity earlier. So when you have a tree that doesn't hit maturity until they hit about 20 feet tall, that could take 10 years. When you have a dwarf tree that hits maturity at 10 feet tall, you might be able to do that in 3 years. By year 4 or 5, you could be throwing fruit. So we're going to focus on getting dwarf trees of 2 more varieties. Once I have those on property to start helping with the cross-pollination, that crabapple tree is going to get taken down, and I'm going to essentially leave the stump, and we're going to utilize that root system. I'm going to graft 2 of the apple branches from those young dwarf trees onto that stump, and because of that healthy mature root system, those grafts that start off like 6 inches tall will grow so fast they will not only catch up to those dwarf trees, they're going to surpass those dwarf trees and produce fruit probably within 3 years, where those other dwarf trees might take the whole 5. So let's go around the front of the house real quick. So here we have a lemon tree on the right, and this is a finger lime tree here. They've been seeming to really like the porch. The porch gets a lot of morning sun and afternoon shade. People think Mediterranean fruit trees and think that they should be out full sun cooking in the heat. I have them underneath the overhang so they don't catch water from the rain. So the idea is lots of shade, but also we're not cooking the pots dry on them. And they seem to be pretty happy. They're not throwing really any new growth yet. I might experiment with, no, actually they are. Here we are. You can see it right there. We got a little bit of burn there, but that is right there at my fingertip. That's a bud. That's excellent. So these trees are now just starting to get over transplant shock. Let's see if we can find any. I don't see any fresh budding growth on this guy. Ooh, yeah, we do. That's a fresh leaf right there. So once again, it's one of those things like, got little spiders taking it over. That's okay if it's a good place for them to catch bugs. Any signs of new growth, though, is what you're really looking for. If a plant is, oh, here. See that fresh green end? That's new growth. So any signs of new growth means that this plant is happy because it's starting to push new growth, which means the root system has finally gotten happy from being in these planters, and they're finally expanding. Same with this one. It's not as noticeable as the finger lime, but they're in the same situation. Both very similar plants. They like, similar growing area. These are all tiger lilies, guys. I hate them. They're coming out. These are all going to be herbs over here. So we're going to dig this out, and I'm going to replace this with a much sandier, better draining medium. This is all going to turn into sage, rosemary, lavender, that kind of stuff all across the front of the house. I wish I could put all that kind of stuff in my apothecary garden, but the reality is the Mediterranean plants don't do so well in Pennsylvania because of our soil type, and if you don't amend the soil, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of success with them surviving the winter. It's not about whether or not they freeze. It's about the drying, refreezing, and the roots being frozen into a block of ice as opposed to freezing dry, if that makes sense. They don't like to have wet feet to begin with, so imagine being frozen into water. So if you make it really well draining, I could probably cover them with buckets and they'll survive there because I could set them up to survive there. If I put them in my apothecary garden, they're going to be left to the elements all winter, and then I'm going to have to start all over every year. So we're trying to make it so this is less work each and every year. So we got 2 new planters here. That fig tree is going to go in one. This poor guy is probably going to get moved into the center of this planter, and we're going to see if we can't still bring him back to life. It looks like he's trying so hard to bud. But here they are in the exact same planter. They were both budding when I put them in. One thrived and one didn't. Now, their root systems were incredibly different. The root system on this had no young, fresh roots. It only had thick, woody roots. This one had these young, tender roots to them. So those young, tender roots threw fresh growth right away, and boom, it's waking up. This guy's probably been trying hard to throw those fresh young roots so that it hasn't been able to throw any fresh green to the top, and that's completely normal. So we're going to show you the rest of my staging area. So this is my outdoor dog kennel. It is 20 by 30. Okay. My goji berry looks like shit. It is severely root bound, extremely stressed right now. It's going in the ground tomorrow, no matter what. It will rebound. Goji berry is very tough. My red currant got blown off of the the top here yesterday, and same thing. It's a little broken, a little beat up, but it's a very tough plant. So as long as the root system is healthy, and I get this in the ground, these are both going to take off like bad weeds. Up here are all my grapes. You can see that's all tender, fresh growth. This guy, I was afraid that it didn't survive my catawba, so I pulled it out to check the cambium and the crown, and I actually saw fresh, tender roots growing. So it got replanted. We're not going to mess with it. Glencoe, boysenberries, doing amazing. All of my brassicas here. We got purple cabbage. We got Brussels sprouts. Stink bugs apparently too. Habaneros are out full sun already because they love full sun. So like my other peppers are still transitioning in the greenhouse. Sweet potato slips, cucumbers, squash. No, that's zucchini. That's black pearl zucchini, and this is the squash. White cabbages. These are Stonehead and Bravo. Bravos have a bit of a purple stalk to them, so I think they're kind of like almost like a half between a red and a white. They grow a white head, but the leaves, they get a darker, more like purpley leaf when they're mature. Anyways, gooseberries. This gooseberry, as bad as it looks, I checked the cambium and it's still green. This gooseberry is doing pretty good. They're ready to be transplanted. I don't know if this one survived or not. If it doesn't, we'll replace it next season. We're not worrying about it this year. My Hucheras are for my landscaping. I absolutely love them because they're doing so good over here. They absolutely love the way I've been treating them, and I was originally going to go with Coleus, which requires a lot of cloning to landscape with, and unfortunately they don't seem to like my weather up here. So this Coleus is doing good, which is awesome because it's beautiful. This one's doing okay. Dying. Man, this lime green one's kind of doing okay. This one's doing fantastic. The red is doing fantastic. And this one over here has been hit and miss. There's Bee Balm, Comfrey. Over here, we have 2 more mature blueberries. These are mature blueberries. These are mature blueberries. Now, these were sick, and I got them kind of late, but I transplanted them, and we got fresh buds pushing everywhere. So, even though they looked sick, I was able to get them because I had a whole bunch of dormant blueberries, which are like this size, but with no greenery, and they were all dead. They refunded me money. I took my refund and ran out and found whatever was left of the more mature stock. So it's a little more expensive, but even though they look like I'm losing a couple weeks of grow time, I'm still starting off with a much healthier root system. So they're further ahead than these guys, but these guys released Awake and Alive. So you can see I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 different blueberry bushes. Happy about that. I got a kiwi plant here that's going to take off like a bat out of hell. It's pushing tons of fresh growth already. And because that other kiwi wasn't doing so well, I found this guy at the store. I peeked in the bag, and as you can see, we got fresh green growth on it. I'd rather have 2 that are guaranteed going to wake up and survive and 1 that peters out and dies, or have that 3rd one spring back and come back to life, than to only end up with 1 plant. So now I'm going to show you my little greenhouse. I was really surprised how great this thing is. Check, it's just a tiny little Walmart, it's like 56 inches by 56 inches by 6.5 feet tall or whatever it is. And mind you, big problem is they can fly away. So I have it zip tied one side, and if you go to the outside, you could kind of see here that I have bricks. I don't know if you can see from the inside. There are bricks over there on the outer flap on that side. There are bricks, and all these plants are sitting on the outer flap, so all that weight of the pots are helping this thing keep it weighed down, because if the wind were to catch this in the middle of the day and jostle it and knock all my plants down on the inside, it could ruin everything. So let's go inside real quick. You can see it's warm and dry in here. We're looking a little droopy, a little wilted. That's okay. But we got several varieties. I got pineapples. I have pink brandywines. These are my broccolis. These are my Romas. Down here are my black beauties and my black crims. I have like some sage here and some oregano growing. They're all doing really well. This one back here is not doing so well, but then all the others are doing great. So I'm not trying to mess with them too much. Sage, like I said, this area isn't really conducive to sage, so I have to make special potting mix, which I haven't. They're in regular potting mix, so I'm just happy they're doing as well as they are. I got 4 store-bought bell peppers. The rest are all serranos, cayennes, and Thai peppers that I grew from seed. The rest of my peppers were in the beginning of the video. I showed you what I got planted inside. Those were all started from seed. Down on the bottom, I got hostas coming up, just starting. Dahlias over here have not started yet. Stay on the bottom here. There's toothache plant in that corner with horehound, with hyssop. That is red hot pokers. The elaearis is coming up everywhere, which kind of looks like a red hot poker, but it's purple. And this is my sea holly. It is not up yet. Ground is still pretty good. It's nice and damp. I'm not messing with it. I got more toothache plant. It's a little burnt. It got burnt when it was up top, so I moved it down to the ground and boom, it sprung back. Now over here we got lamb's ear. Something nibbled off the lamb's ear. We get a lot of bugs in here, unfortunately, but it's still doing good because the roots are doing good. The motherwort is doing amazing. The majorum is doing amazing. I got a little bit of thyme here. The other thyme's not so well. The true lavender is not so well. I got 1 holly basil that came up doing good. The rest of the Italian basil is doing good. Monarda not woken up yet. This time doing amazing. The rest of my broccoli over there. Now back up to the top. We got feverfew that's exploding here. Cherry tomatoes. These are a couple more black beauties over here. Man, they're doing really good too. Like really, really good. And some green zebras that are doing amazing. Now these are my store-bought tomatoes. We have beef steaks, because I had super steaks that I started from seed that didn't make it. And my purple Cherokees that I started from seed didn't make it. So I'm not above buying stuff from the store to replace what I've lost. But this is what we got going on here. Super happy with how these are doing. And just a reminder, I'm not planting all of these guys. I buy for redundancy. I grow from starts for redundancy, because by the time everything finally works out and I can get plants into the garden beds, there's no guarantee that all this stuff is even going to still be alive. So you oversow, and as they die, you replace. I had plants here. Check the brandywines. You can see how bad this plant looks. These plants were just as bad, if not worse, and they've actually sprung back to life in here. Now I got a couple that are doing exceptionally good, but keep in mind, I didn't know if I was going to lose those, and if I lose those, I lose those spots in the beds that were designated to them. So having redundancy to put more plants in here is always a good idea. Now, when you see all these plants wilting in here, a lot of people would want to run out and immediately try to water. Here's the thing though, is these plants need to get dry in order for those roots to want to grow to reach for water. So you want to let them get a little dry, a little wilty, where you're at almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Hot, dry day. Mind you, they were doing excellent this morning. So this dry, droopy growth, that's fine. I'll water them this evening after the heat of the day has passed, probably around 5 or 6 o'clock when the sun isn't as intense and it's setting over there in the west. When the sun's not as intense, I'll come back in, and notice it's mostly the western side that gets the most sun on here. So these are the plants that do the worst when it comes to heat stress. It's okay. They'll get their watering. They'll spring back up this evening, and I'll show you. Keep in mind, these ones on the bottom, like my black crims, look how good they're doing. They're just in a little more filtered light because the upper shelves are shading them just a little bit more, but that's okay. All these tomatoes tomorrow will be out on those shelves to start hardening off. And that's going to open up this shelf space, and all my transplanted peppers are going to come out here to start staging to harden off. Because this plastic, excuse me, pollen, this plastic is filtering out a lot of this UV. However, they're having to deal with the heat and the humidity. So they'll come from out there to out here to full UV, and then from there they'll be able to handle full sun. Because out in that field, it gets sun earlier because there's no woods here out in that field to block the morning light. So it gets sun about 2 to 3 hours earlier there than it does right here. So there's morning shade here till about 10. It starts getting direct sunlight out there by 8. So give you an idea, they'll be getting more sun out there, more UV, so they're going to move over to here to get direct exposure to harden off a little bit more right before going out there. Really hoping we get this afternoon rain, because if we do, my garden boxes will be nice and damp, which will make them more conducive for transplanting tomorrow. If they don't, I have to go around and hand water those boxes in tonight so that ground can get nice and moist, make the soil ready to receive plants. I'll also run out tomorrow morning, and I'm going to get some dry time-release fertilizer, probably like Garden Tone, something to that effect, and probably some bone meal. We'll mix that into the hole where we plant. So as the roots grow out and into it, and as it gets watered, it's going to start breaking down and fertilizing. We'll also fertilize around the top of the plants, and then that will be it for the most part for the season. We will hit them with some liquid fertilizer, but the way I'm doing my beds are like hugelculture beds. So they're going to be producing fertilizer for those beds for the foreseeable future. So I do have to fertilize a lot more this year and a lot less next year, and then probably not at all by year 3. One last, these are my mature brambles. So we got 1 raspberry, we got 2 Navajo blackberries, and 2 triple crowns. Those Navajos by next year will be fully mature. Those triple crowns probably by year 3. But by the time we hit year 3, you're talking about each of these plants potentially producing as much as 20 pounds of berries per plant. And that's not counting how they propagate. They propagate by suckering. So the roots that spread out from underneath are going to shoot fresh blackberries, new canes that are going to turn into their own plant. So next year, when you start getting those suckers, they won't produce berries. But by year 2, or I should say year 3, that sucker will start growing additional canes, and the old canes, when they're 1 year old, will produce berries. So they start kind of snowballing really fast. So this will turn into a berry patch extremely quick, because those 2 plants are going to create a lot of suckers. Those 2 plants are going to create a lot of suckers. My boysenberries by next year will probably be about as big as those Navajos, and they'll be suckering. And the Glencoe raspberry by next year will probably be about as big as this Nova raspberry, and it will be starting to sucker. So you can see by year 3, we could easily be getting over 100 pounds of brambleberries, and That's not even exaggeration. Keep in mind, a lot of that could be cleaned off and destroyed by birds. But I got a plan for that. I got three mulberry plants, mulberry trees. They're itsy bitsy tiny little saplings, and they're doing okay. They're not doing great, they're doing okay. So I'm desperately trying to get them back to where they're healthy and shooting new growth. Now mulberries grow aggressively. At this point, we're just really trying hard to get their root system to establish. So right now the root system isn't big enough to support the sapling out here in the sun. So we're trying really hard to fix that. So bear with me, guys. If this turns into a more overcast day, those mulberries will come outside. They do need to learn how to harden off, but right now I have them indoors, shaded under some lights, just hoping that they start to recover. I know everyone thinks sunlight is good, but when you have young, tender plants, sunlight can be way too much. You gotta realize when most of these plants in the wild were to start growing, they would be growing underneath the canopy of the mother plant. So they would be growing in the shade. It's not until they get big enough and tall enough that they can handle more light that they start shooting really tall growth to break through the canopy. So during those initial months of initial growth, they're so tender, but they're in filtered light. So you can't just put them out in full sun. Where I had them was supposed to be shaded, and the weather we had been having up to that point had been partially cloudy days, and then just boom, it just changed the full sun, no clouds, extreme heat like Pennsylvania likes to do. And by the time I get home from work, they're showing signs of severe stress. Now they're not dead. I'm sure I can bring them back to life and make them vigorous again. And we'll show you when we get to that. But we have some other interesting things we're going to be doing in the near future. I'm going to reach out to you guys and show you that in the near future.